Okay, so welcome everyone. It is Thursday, May 21st, 2026. It's almost Memorial Day weekend. Hard to believe. Summer is here. And I'm really appreciative of you all joining me this evening to learn a little more about the Genius Zone Blueprint program that I have been putting together with the help of Jenny, who I think most of you know, um, who is my kind of partner in crime and business. We've been working together for several years. I'm going to be elaborating on that a bit more because it's very relevant for the conversation tonight. And like I said, other than Linda, who's joining us, I think you have all been gifted with copies of your Genius Zone blueprint reports. So this is going to be, kind of meaningful and relevant. And one of the things that came out of this for me, because I have been working with these systems, as many of you know, for like many years, but really just got the inspiration to put them together much more formally within the past few months. And it's really been kind of eye-opening and very aligning to all of us who have been seeing our reports, including me. Because even though I've known a lot of these things about myself, there's just something about the way it is now being presented and so much clarity that it's providing a lot more alignment. And one of the things that came out of my report, very loud and very clear, is that everything that takes place for me actually happens through my kind of more intimate network. So many of you are representing that here. And that's why I wanted to kind of roll that out, and kind of share with you what I have and what I'm looking to do and support that I'm looking for, and what could be some win-win opportunities for all of us. So I'm going to share my screen. Give me just a moment while I open this up. There we go. So this is the Genius Zone Blueprint uh, presentation, and many thanks to Jenny, who is the creative genius on the team, has been responsible for a lot of the design, as she will continue to be. So we're going to be kind of elaborating tonight, like I said, about this blueprint for what I'm calling conscious women, families, and teams. And I'm describing this as more than insight. This is clarity that we can build lives around. And I am probably going to be asking at certain points for some of you to chime in if you like, with some of your experience to share, because I know some of you have had a pretty profound experience of this so far. So one of the things that I did want to explain, because I'm not sure that everybody knows, is that this program is part of a larger ecosystem and brand and company that Jenny and I have been launching, that we are calling the Women Thriving Project. And currently, what's involved in this umbrella, this ecosystem, are three programs. The Genius Zone Blueprint is our lead program because, frankly, it is the one that most people are by far the most excited about, and that we think has like some really amazing potential to be bringing out into the world. I've also put together, as many of you know, the Hemadosha Blueprint, which is my proprietary program, integration of Ayurveda and the blood type science. And it's actually one of the components of the Genius Zone Blueprint. And Jenny and I have also designed another program that is an online course. And we're working on a 2-day live immersion event for next winter about biohacking with Ayurveda, which we're also very excited about. So those are the three programs that we have available right now. And again, the Genius Zone is the one that we and everybody else seem to be the most excited about, that we're going to be putting a lot of energy into. And we have two visibility platforms, both called Thriving Beyond the Matrix. One of them is my Substack, and the other is a podcast that Jenny and I are launching where we have recorded several of the episodes and decided that they needed a little bit of tweaking. But we have a really clear message and positioning, and we're really looking forward to that as one of our visibility and marketing platforms. We have our Divina Rising Collective community that has been in place for 3.5 years that some of you have been part of. And we're going to be kind of refocusing and relaunching that in line with the other things that are going on in the ecosystem. And we do look forward to producing some a lot larger and smaller live events because that's another kind of superpower that Jenny and I both have and something that we really love doing. And bringing conscious women together is one of the yummiest things that I ever get to do. And we're looking forward to doing a lot more of that. So those are the things that are going on, and as a context. And this program that I'm going to be elaborating about is part of that in a really important way. And just what this looks like as a business model is, again, it's the Women Thriving Project. We've got our programs, the Substack and podcast, the community, and an event division that we're really looking to develop in partnership with an event planner that we are looking forward to working with. So that's kind of the platform that this is all part of. And as I mentioned, um, we have a team of our own that is myself and Jenny, who uh, I'm not seeing on the screen right now because I guess she is at the bottom. But Jenny and I have been working together for a long time. And a couple of years ago, we realized, and that's even before I put together the Genius Zone in the form that I have most recently. Like I said, I've been working with this stuff for a long time. And Jenny and I realized that we were a really great team, but we were incomplete because there were some missing pieces that I'll be kind of showing you in a little bit. And we put out a cosmic request for the right person that would complement the two of us and kind of complete the team. And a mutual friend introduced us to Christina, who is actually the perfect third member of our team for Jenny and myself. And we'll be showing that to you actually in more detail. And that was actually specifically in connection with the community. And we were had engaged with Christina as the community host. We're now looking at this in terms of a much larger ecosystem. Because in fact, I will when Christina was here last month, and I showed her what some of what we're going to be looking at tonight, at least at the stage that it was in at the time. And she kind of freaked out and she said, "Oh my God, Susan, like this is going to explode. Like, are you ready?" And I said, "What do you mean, am I ready? Like emotionally? Do I have my wardrobe in order? Like, what do you mean?" And she said, "No, I mean like operationally. Like you need to hire me. Like, I know exactly what needs to happen on the back end." And she's absolutely right. And we did meet under those conditions. So we're now particularly excited about moving together because the three of us really are a perfect team in terms of this program that we're sharing with you. And it's really been kind of cool because we're using the Genius Zone to create the Genius Zone. So there's some, like inherent integrity to what's going on, and it's just kind of making it even more fun. So little bit of a description, and I think some of you have seen this about what we're talking about. And let me see if I can get this out of the way. I'm calling the Genius Zone Blueprint a powerful synthesis of some of the most revealing systems of self-knowledge into one actionable, clear map of your life path, gifts, and most natural path to flow and fulfillment. And it integrates and looks at all of that through the lenses of Vedic astrology, human design, wealth dynamics, and the Hemadosha Blueprint program that I've put together. And we're finding that when we're looking at all of that together, the patterns that become visible are really, really exciting. Um, so that's kind of the big picture of what this is all about. And I want to just briefly to share a little bit about the four different systems that are incorporated into this because probably you're all familiar with some of them, and probably almost nobody is familiar with all of them. So I want you to go into it a little bit and also explain why I think these things are so important. Vedic astrology is something I've been working with for more than 12 years, and it is really the foundation of the blueprint. I've really designed this with a particular architecture. And the Vedic astrological part, and in particular the rising sign, is where we start with all of this. It's the main lens, because my understanding and my experience is that our rising sign in Vedic astrology indicates our life purpose and our dharma. And so to me, that's where we start. So at the beginning of each of the blueprints, and as you've seen yours, that's the starting point, is our rising signs within Vedic astrology. And one of the things that I'll mention is I am not the only person right now who is doing something like this. I've seen some other programs out there that are integrating human design with Western astrology. I even actually bought one of the programs because I wanted to see what they were doing. And it was quite interesting because it validated for me what I was doing. But Vedic astrology is so much more sophisticated than Western astrology, and it is much more precise. Because in Vedic astrology, as I think you all know, because I've asked you for this information, it's based on an exact birth time because the rising sign changes every couple of hours. And within that, there are constellations that shift. So this is much, much more specific than Western astrology. And it's based on a completely different zodiac. And I'm not gonna say too much more about this, but the some of the significance of it is that the zodiac that Vedic astrology is based on is called the sidereal zodiac. Western is based on something called the tropical zodiac. And the sidereal zodiac is astronomically correct in a way that the tropical one is not. So there is a principle of, to me, of, as above, so below, that's really operating here with Vedic astrology that makes it much, much more precise and gives us a lot of guidance about timing. So the models that are based on Western astrology are not going to be able to do that. And so I would be very surprised if anybody else is doing anything exactly like this. And the reason I have a little asterisk next to the birth time is one of the things that I hear sometimes from people, of course, is that they don't know their exact birth time. And I just have a little bit of a note there because, as some of you also know, there's a Vedic astrologer that I've worked with who was able to identify an exact birth time for people who don't know what it is. So that information can be gotten. So not having that isn't necessarily an obstacle for anybody that wants to, move forward with this. And it is a little bit esoteric in our world. So again, that's the starting point for me of this whole program. And then the second system that we look at is human design, which many of you are familiar with, either through me or through other sources that you've worked with. I've been working with human design for about 25 years, and I think of it as our personal operating system. And it's very powerful, and it's very popular these days. A lot of people are working with it, um, and I think it's wonderful without kind of, and to me, it tells us a lot of the how of how we navigate this life. But without the Vedic astrology, that's kind of answering to me the question of the big why. It's not giving us the whole picture. And I think of all of us as some of you have heard me say as prisms that have different facets. And when we are able to look at multiple facets, we get a much better sense of what the whole looks like. And human design is also based on an exact birth time. So I have that same little asterisk there that, it is possible to get that, even if somebody doesn't already have it. And human design itself synthesizes Western astrology, the chakra system, the Kabbalah, and the I Ching. So there's a lot of wisdom built into that. And I really believe, and that's why I kind of call this a soul blueprint. I really believe that our souls, chose our moment of birth to fulfill on the lives that we, plan to have, each time. And that, none of this was random. And I've called it, that our souls left breadcrumbs, to kind of guide us forward. Because once we got here into the human condition, a lot of our, soul wisdom is not as fully available to it as we might want it to be. It's been a frustration that I have. And this system identifies the types that we are and the profiles and the strategies and authorities and definitions and all kinds of other stuff that is very cool. And then we come to wealth dynamics, which most people in this country have not come across. I was introduced to it when I was living in Australia. So that's been almost 18 years. And this is not based on a birth time. It's based on actually a test that people take. That the system is based on Chinese energy. So I often think of wealth dynamics as like a personal feng shui map that we each have to align with universal flow. And this graphic, I think, is a good one because it shows that there are 8 different entrepreneurial styles or entry points to universal flow based on this system. And we each have a focus on one of them and a support with the 2 adjoining ones. So in this system, I'm a supporter, which is the one on the right. I'm all about the people. And I have secondary profiles of star and deal maker. And each of you has one of these of your own. Um, I know Robin has actually taken the test. For many of you, we've talked about it and read the descriptions, and I'm pretty familiar with this. So we've made some assumptions about people. But when I'm actually going to be offering this program to, business leaders and stuff like that, we're actually going to take the official test. I want to see the numbers and the percentages and all of that because this is like a brilliant tool to be using for team building. In fact, this was, and I was mentioning that a few minutes ago, this was kind of the focus that I had when we were looking for Christina, because Jenny is a creator in this system, the one at the top, and I'm a supporter on the left. And the beautiful thing about this little system here is that for a team or a company to be or an organization to be really successful, they need to have all of these different roles fulfilled. But because we each have access to 3 of them, you really only need 3 people to complete the team as long as it's the right 3 people. So with Jenny as a creator at the top and me as a supporter on the right, the one that was missing that kind of completed the square is the accumulator on the bottom left. And that's what Christina is. So we actually have a very complete team here. And there's more to say about that, but probably won't delve into it much more tonight. But just to, again, let you know where this all fits. To me, this is the wealth creation facet of the prism. And the last one, last but not least, as I said, is my program that integrates Ayurveda with the blood types. So this is where the physiological and the temperament stuff comes in. And this is really important, not just for maintaining our well-being, but also for nervous system regulation, which is a big thing that we hear about these days. So that's the kind of structure of what went into all of this. And another, kind of important question is like, okay, now we've got this, like, who is it for? And when I was asking myself that question, the answer that I came up with is this is not for everyone because it's not going to make sense to people that are really, 3D, matrix based. I don't see this being of interest to everyone, and I'm not interested in convincing anybody about the validity of any of it. But there are a lot of us that are already resonating with these kinds of things. And to me, one of the ways of describing us is, women who know that we're souls having a human experience. Because when you know that, you sort of need a roadmap of how to navigate this world from a soul perspective. That's not what I was taught in school. Probably most of us were not. So to me, this is like a real breakthrough of, finding our inner sovereignty and not just, kind of following the conditioning that we've been exposed to. So I work primarily with women. This is certainly valid for men. That's not my primary audience, but it's certainly, entirely valid. But some of the women that I'm really excited about sharing this with are conscious women, business founders, visionaries, women who lead teams and communities, women in transition, because this is really powerful for that. Leaders that are seeking more alignment. And this is also really powerful for mothers, because we have the opportunity to look at these blueprints, not just for ourselves as individuals, but also for families and teams, which is kind of making it really exciting. So for individuals, which is what most of you have experienced so far, there's two ways to access the information. One of them is just a report, that just takes your birth information and spits that out. And we're going to be offering that as a scalable product. A lot of you have been asking, well, so how are you going to scale this? That's one of the ways that we're looking to do that, and that Christina's probably going to be running all of that. So that's just getting the report alone is one way to access the information. The deeper one is with a complete reading with me, which several people have already booked and experienced. And it's been really pretty emotional for everybody that's experienced it so far, some more than others. And I'm going to stop here for a couple of reasons. One is I have been speaking for a long time, and that gets boring. But the other is I was hoping that some of you that have actually seen this blueprint for yourselves might want to share with the rest of the group a little bit about it. Not to put anybody on the spot, but too late. Um, so again, Linda, unfortunately you're the only one that hasn't seen that of yours. But I've had people tell me that, they've spent hours over it and, made some life decisions. Somebody wrote a poem about it. One of you told me you were rejoicing, over seeing this. Um, Christina,
Oh.
thank you.
That's
Robin.
exactly how I felt. When you had given me the human design and the report for that, and I read through it, but I honestly, I couldn't understand everything. I was like, wait, what does this mean? What does this mean? Um, and when you pulled the report and sent me the report, the Genius Zone report, it all made sense. And I kind of like just laid everything out, and I was just reading this and reading that. And, oh my God, that's what that means. And so it put it all together to a point where I actually, made my decisions from reading that Genius report, because I had already been contemplating on a specific action that I was going to take, but I kind of kept putting it to the side, and something just kept nagging at me like, do it, just do it, just do it. But when I read the Genius report and I said, okay, this is my destiny. This is what I need to be doing. That made me take action. And so I started setting stricter goals for myself and saying, okay, this is what I'm gonna take action on so that I can get this outcome. And it was extremely helpful. I'm really really glad that I had the report done for me.
Christina's very detail oriented. I was showing you that's sort of one of the roles that she plays, and I got a text from her at a quarter to 11 one night saying, I finally sat down with my report at 8 o'clock and I'm only on page 3. Like 3 hours had gone by. So,
Yeah, I
okay,
mean, when I tell you, I was reading through every little, I mean, I was comparing, I was like, okay, that's what that meant. And then I'm looking at the report. I mean, I was really dissecting every little bit of it. And it just, like I said, it just made so much sense at the end of it. And even after the 3 hours, I was like, wow, I didn't want to go to sleep. I was like, I have to go to sleep. But it was just so interesting. And, I couldn't put it down and, just kept looking into it the next day. And like I said, just really defining my goals after that.
and I got a lovely text from Christina the next day going, I'm even more excited now about being part of like getting this out in the world. Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I can't wait till so many people are, aware of how helpful this is for everybody.
Thank you.
Well, I remember when I got the first version and I read it through, I was like, oh my God, this thing knows me. It's like knows me like inside and out. And then when I got your new and improved version, I told myself I've got to read that before I get on this call tonight. And it didn't happen, so maybe I'll read it after. But the first one was pretty impressive.
Oh,
Thank
and
you.
can I add to that, Susan?
Please.
How we discovered about the birth time?
Yes. That, by the way, thank you for reminding me about that because I really have been curious for a long time, like how important getting the birth time exactly right is. And we had, this was the only little test that I was able to observe that we had Christina's birth time off by 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And so we redid it with the
That's amazing.
corrected time.
Mm.
And it did change the report because the nakshatra within her rising sign was changed within that 10-minute period. And it actually cast a completely different flavor on the report. So that made me feel, like that was interesting and valuable to find out that it really does make a difference, to be very precise about the birth time. And again, this seems to be speaking to so many of us so deeply that if we're really going to use this, as a foundation to make decisions on, as you have, I think we need to get it right. And so fortunately, there are the tools to do that if if that's not readily available.
And that's what you offer, right? Is the correction of the birth time?
Yes, there's a Vedic astrologer that I work with who had rectified my birth time years ago, and he has the ability to do that. So again, this information can be gotten. Okay. And by the way, welcome, Golda. I had the screen share going on when you joined, and
No
Ariel
problem.
was here for a moment and dropped off, so hopefully she will come back. But did anybody else want to say anything about the individual?
I'll, sh-
Robin?
I'll
Thanks.
share. I've been the kind of a person where inner work and self-discovery have been always a deep and very important part of my life. And so I was very familiar with wealth dynamics and human design and other such programs because they're like I wouldn't invest in a new venture without doing, wealth dynamics and human design to make sure that the team construct is right and that we're really in a place of balance. I had told Susan I also love the Enneagram. I use that also for teams as well. But the thing that was so, and we're just touching the top layers still right now in this because there's so much depth and perspective. And for me, what was so important is that the report was able to integrate all of the different genius zones that it was bringing forward that made up me. And we did it, Susan and I did it in a general for general life
Hmm.
go even further down the road. But it was so interesting because typically we each need to extrapolate on our own or with a mentor or therapist or something like that. But here the report just was constructed in such a way that it was all just like put together in this amazing tapestry that was so spot on in so many different places that I couldn't ignore it, you know? And I said to Susan that I really believe like she's been working her whole life towards this um, time, this moment in time. And it's so beautiful, Jenny and Christine, that you're all together on this team and that it worked out, you know, just so beautifully. And you each bring your own genius forward and then collectively together. So, I mean, I think like this is just the very, very cusp of the very, very, very beginning. And, you know, we all knew Susan was brilliant in so many different ways, you know, and I think I don't know many of you in that way, but I think most of us would say we either love her a lot or have a tremendous regard for who she is as a human being. And to see this come together in this way and to be able to help in my little way with the launching of this incredible, incredible endeavor is so exciting and such an honor. And I'm so happy to be able to like share this moment in time.
Wow.
Wow.
Thank you. Like I said, a lot of this has been very emotional. Um, and really gratifying for me because I have so much regard for all of you. You know, Robin's reaction was really meaningful to me. Golda, you know, is nodding her head. I know when I shared this, I mean, this is all fairly recent, but when I shared, you know, the your report with you, the email that you sent me was like, oh my God, this is, you know, this is your thing. And it's in my report that this is my thing, you know. So as I said, there's like an inherent integrity here that is, I think what, you know, most of us are seeking in life to, you know, to feel that kind of alignment and the energy that has been unblocked, you know, what Christina was describing. And Robin, you know, you mentioned, you know, therapy. One of my friends who couldn't make it tonight, who many of you know, Sina, is a therapist. And she wrote a poem about this.
Oh,
But she also said, you know, if she was in practice, you know, if she was working actively, she said, I would have everyone do this. I mean, this would save years of therapy, you know, for almost, it just clarifies so many things. Um, so it's been really, really gratifying. And one of them, and I'm sorry, I don't need to out anyone, but one of the ones that was the deepest one for me so far was the one that came out for Georgia, which was like a love letter.
yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to say anything about that, but that was one of the most emotional so far.
Yeah, it was extremely emotional for me personally. I mean, it was hard to just get through every single page. I felt, you know, it's hard to really put in words, but it's like I came home to myself and I finally felt heard. I felt seen. Seriously, all my life, I mean, I'm 76 and I honestly, to this day, I mean, until this report, I have always felt this undercurrent of being lost. It's like, you know, I'm navigating life on my own, but I'm not sure, you know, where or what, but I just keep showing up. I keep fighting. And this report was humongous to me. I mean, it was like almost like God talking to me, you know, this is who you are. I mean, the qualities, the upliftment that I felt, it was extremely emotional. And I feel like I'm just starting again,
Mm.
but in alignment this time and on purpose, with purpose. And I need to just keep reviewing all of this, but there's so much in here that is so extremely inspiring and actually, I really, it's hard for me to just put in words. I've always kept things within, so I'm finding my voice. I'm getting there. Um, but I just feel stronger. I feel inspired, and I can't wait to go home to be the mother that I want to be with Angela. That it's been it's been a real journey, but I don't know how to thank you guys, really, just putting all this together. I could cry right now, really.
It's,
Thank you. Thank you deeply.
yeah. Whoops. Oops. What happened? Lost my screen here.
Mm.
Okay. I'm gonna go back to the slides and then I'm probably
Okay.
gonna ask for a little more as we go along. And one of the things I'm also going to show you is we will just eyeball it, but actually what the report looks like for our team
Mm.
and the depth of detail that it goes into for teams when we get to that, because that is even more mind-blowing. Like what Robin was talking about a little while ago of, utilizing these things for any new project. I mean, this is just, it just lays everything out. It's really quite amazing. Okay, so back to the program. Okay, so that's a little bit of, how this has been impacting different individuals. And one of the things that I want to also say, because this is also quite exciting, this can be focused for people at all different points in life. And there are different questions that I'm putting in for different people. So this can be done for children. We're going to be speaking about that in a few minutes because that's part of the family program. And for kids, we wouldn't be including the wealth dynamics aspect of it because it's not really relevant or available, but all the rest of it would be. I think this would be invaluable for young people that are entering the workforce,
Mhm.
especially these days. And that's one of the things about this that I think is so cool and timely is it really does reveal the gifts and personal genius that we each have that cannot be replaced by AI, which is a concern that a lot of people have these days. This is the irreplaceable stuff. I think this is really relevant and critical and important for founders and leaders and people that are in business and organizations and leading projects. It's like hard to imagine that anybody could really navigate optimally without having this perspective now that I see that it's available. There are people that are at legacy points in life. When I ran Georgia's report, she's not starting a business. She's at a transition point, as she was just mentioning, going back to Chicago to be with family at a, time where there's some challenges going on. So we were sort of looking at it from that perspective. So there's different questions and different focuses that are appropriate for people at different points in life, different transitions. And there's really, we can focus on anything. As Robin was saying, her initial report was just a general one, but I have, like a 3-page, set of intake questions that people can include to really help focus. And I have with a few, people who have, booked readings as clients and filled out those questions. It's been so specific about, addressing their particular issues. It's, kind of mind blowing. So this can be applied in a lot of different directions. It's not, other than the report, the scalable product that we mentioned, this is all going to be very, very customized. We're going to be working with people very specifically on what's most relevant for them. Now, this next section I mentioned we were going to talk about, and again, thank you and kudos to Golda, who really brought this to my attention a little while back about how important. Sorry, let's fix this page. It would be to be able to offer this to families. And I think she was motivated by having a daughter with kids, who she felt would really appreciate this. Um, and her daughter's part of a larger organization of families that she thought would appreciate this. So we really started looking into that. So as I said, I work with women, and most women are mothers, although I am not. Many women have children, and a lot of their life focus is about, their kids and being there, in the ways that they want to for them. There's all kinds of dynamics, obviously, in couples, between partners. I'm gonna stop in a couple of minutes and ask Jenny to comment about this because we did this for her family. And it was, again, very emotional, really looking at identifying what each child does and does not need. The dynamics, the developmental stages. And I really think that like every conscious parent should have this for each child. It was just, mind blowing to me, even just knowing Jenny's kids as I do, what that revealed. But she was much more emotional about it. So I'm gonna ask her to share a little bit about her experience of this as a mother with what's available for families.
Yes, I was blown away. I have been blown away my entire time working with Susan. She just keeps, changing the game for me. And when I first started working with her and she was introducing me to all of these pieces separately, it was very eye-opening, and I really started to see myself for who I was and my dharma and what I needed to be focusing on to show up in my superpower. And then once, I started, and I'm so honored to be a part of it, started helping her put this blueprint together and incorporating everything. The way that it really laid out the roadmap for me was incredible. I mean, it completely changed my trajectory of what I wanted to do in the world and how I wanted to show up. And it was really coming at a perfect time, like going through a divorce and moving separately with my kids. I mean, there was just a lot going on. So Susan was really showing up for me in a way that was really supportive and helping me with all of this to move through that. And then we have done the children separately and looked at their charts, which in itself is really cool to see, this tiny little human and how much they already have this like natural essence of who they are. But then to be able to incorporate that as a family unit and as a mom, you always like I've always kind of known and I've always said like, oh, they chose me, right? And I've always kind of known that I'm showing up because for whatever reason, whatever their life path is, I'm the one that's going to help guide them there. Well, you still don't understand how to do that. Nobody tells you how to do these things. And so everything is just a reflection of who I am and how I react to things and how I make decisions. And to see the blueprint of our whole family and how what they exactly need from me, and what they don't. The amount of pressure that it was able to take off me as a mother, with the mom guilt that we hold. To say that it was helpful is just, it doesn't even describe the way that my nervous system immediately calmed down and the way that I was able to relax and show up and start to practice helping them move through life in a completely different way, knowing how they learn and how they react to things.
And each of them was different, of course.
They
I
were
mean,
so
Jenny
different.
has two, a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, they're in this like most very fragile little moment of their young lives, before going into puberty and really kind of forming relationships outside of the family and all of this. So it's really been mind blowing, and I have seen such a huge shift in the way that we show up as a family. Um, and it's not, it's, I'm just trying not to to break down because I typically do. Um, it's one thing to know how, like, what your child wants and needs, but really how to nurture them based on, their natural design and what they need from you to be able to thrive is a question that most people go their whole lives like not really understanding. Um, Gosh, it's really hard to describe. I'm at a loss for words. Like Georgia, I had something in my head that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to say this, but it's like there's so many things that I want to talk about. And like Robin, you were saying that you have been working with a lot of these things for a very long time, and I think a lot of people have, but the way that Susan has brought her essence into this and her wisdom and her care and her, really her lens has been completely altering the whole system. And how she goes over everything so meticulously and puts it in this, order, like you were saying, Susan, about starting with the Dharma and why that's so important. And, all of these things to really lay out this roadmap, because that's what it is. It's a roadmap of how we get to show up and how we get to, get to that superpower that we all want to be embodying.
Jenny, I'm just curious, do you have any like specific that's easy to cite that is like, this is how I was doing it, but after I saw this, I realized this is what I needed to do for this child
Oh gosh,
instead?
yes. So I am, within human design, I'm a sacral energy. So I am like a very gut reaction and I make decisions really quickly. And I just, expect the same from people around me and especially my kids. And I'm like, okay, let me teach you how to do this. Let me teach you, the ways because I know, right? Like, and I think a lot of parents do that. It's like, I have this wisdom. Let me impart this on you. And no matter, like, that's why so many parents are met with so much resistance. And I was being met with so much resistance. And especially from my daughter, who is, 10 going on 18. And, but not really, like, she's actually very innocent and soft, but I was just getting every reaction from her because I wasn't honoring who she is and how she needed to think about things and process her reality and choices and all of these things. So that was a huge defining moment. And Levi is even different. He's got a whole other set of rules that govern him really and how he wants to show up in the world. So just that very simply has made things so much more peaceful around here. And we are, I'm able to relax that it's not my job to teach them how to make these gut reactions because that's not who they are. They're never going to learn how to do that because that's not who they are. So for me to see that is really important.
And it said that, Jenny, really very specifically in the report. So, Gurnam, to answer your question, it was actually very specific. We've talked a lot about authority, like how we're all wired to get our truth in from a human design perspective, Jenny and I and some of us here have sacral authority. We get our truth in the moment, in our gut, and we know what it is, and we move on. Um, Jenny's daughter is emotional solar authority, like Christina, and they need ideally 24 hours to sleep on things to get to their truth. So what the report said is that Charlotte was feeling pressured to have to like make decisions in the moment when it's not her nature to do that. And when Jenny realized that, she just backed off from it. I mean,
Well, it
that's just one
reminded
example.
me, and it reminded me, and I think that you all have heard me, and I can never remember who said this quote, but it is like, and school is very much like this. Like you're all, you have an elephant, a fish, a monkey, a bird, all of these different animals, and they're all taught to climb a tree. And that is your final exam is like, okay, climb this tree, and then you're on the path to success. And if you don't know how to climb the tree, then you spend your whole life thinking that you're stupid or incapable. And so for parents to kind of, especially how, I was feeling like I need to be the one to guide them to do this, that, and the other, when really I just need to kind of step back and honor who they are without knowing this blueprint and how, we're showing up for each other and in each other's lives and why, then, I'm constantly teaching them how to climb a tree when they just want to swim, you know?
Jenny, have you shared that with the kids how so that they know how to deal with each other?
It's interesting, Christina, that you say that because I, before I had kids, and even when I was pregnant, I was like, you see other people doing things and you're like, oh, I'm never going to do that as a parent. Oh, I'm never going to do that. Like, and like, I'm going to teach my kids this way. And like, oh, I'm going to be crunchy and they're going to learn nutrition and they're going to learn all these things and they're going to learn the right way. Kids don't give a shit. That is not who they are as a child. They just want to be accepted. They want to have fun. They don't think about, like, their brain does not process things like that yet. So yes, like I talk about things knowing that it is kind of going on back there, but they're not really thinking on those terms. Like they're just kind of like, okay, whatever you're talking about, mom. Like they know that I'm weird. Like they just think that mom's weird. Oh, she does. What does your mom do? Oh, like frequency stuff. She's weird. So, but I know it is one day it'll click, but they're 10 and 7, so I can't really. I did used to get upset if they didn't listen to me and they weren't, oh, cool, mom. Yeah, we're going to do that. No, they don't care.
I was just curious if they understood it. I mean, if you explain it to them, obviously in a way that they would understand, right? Not.
Yeah, we talk about it, but they're really influenced by a lot of things. So,
Yeah, but Jenny, over time, I mean, they're
yeah,
going to get older, and this is going to be part of the vocabulary in your family.
Right.
yeah,
You'll introduce these things when they're ready for it to be relevant. But I think that a family that has this wisdom available to it is going to function really differently. Golda, again, thank you because I didn't have that, awareness. And I'm just looking at the time, so I'm going to suggest that we move on because I could probably talk all night, but it's a school night, and Jenny's still jet lagged from coming back from France last night. So, okay, but suffice it to say that this is a really rich opportunity for moms and families, and as we get more into this, Jenny is probably going to be the one that's going to be working with a lot of the families. And I am very excited about the next piece I'm going to be talking about, working with teams and companies and organizations that I'm personally very excited about getting involved with. And by the way, I love that image. I spend a lot of time looking for the right photos for these things because pictures, say 1,000 words. And I just thought that was such a wonderful representation, ideally, of a family. Okay. So to me, this is one of the places that it starts to get really exciting. Robin started pointing to that. This program, this blueprint, is really ideal for supporting teams and companies and organizations. And now that I know that this exists, I can't imagine a founder, going forward, really without having this information. It would be kind of silly. It's really brilliant to identify potential partnerships. I've run like my report with several other people that I'm considering, collaborating with on some different things. And it shows where the synergies are as well as the potential friction points and, different issues. It's brilliant. It helps really to outline the roles, based on what we were looking at with wealth dynamics, that not everybody is in their flow. There's a lot of people doing things for reasons that were not about, personal expression and, expression of personal gifts. This goes into timing really specifically. And as I said, I'm going to show you just so you can see what's part of that, the team report for our team, because it's really specific and it actually overlays the timing that each of us is going through to come up with an optimal. And in fact, one of the things that it was very clear about is that the right time to launch this in a large public way will be August. So we have actually a very specific timing roadmap that's in alignment with all of our astrology periods about how to move forward with this. So we have a lot to do between now and August, and that we're doing. But again, really specific. I can't imagine, again, knowing what I know, hiring people without seeing, how they're fitting into the organization with everybody else. And there's a lot of implications about our messaging because our communication, it needs to be vibrationally coherent if it's going to be effective out in the world. And so also with all of our marketing, because again, my design is that it's not about me, doing funnels and, transactions. My everything about me is very relation based. And that reflects this. So we get to do these reports and Genius Zone, what we're calling Genius Zone mapping for individual team members, as well as what we're calling an alignment audit for the team as a whole. And this is particularly important for the founders because they're the ones that are kind of, driving the bus, but it identifies the right partners and key players. It can help put all of the team members into their natural flow. And it identifies really specifically both the synergies and the friction points. So I'm going to stop this share and just show you. We're not going to read through it because it's too long. By the way, these reports, if you haven't seen them, they're often about 20 pages long. I mean, they're really detailed. When Christina was going over them that night, there was a lot to go over. Okay. So I want you to just see what it looks like and some of the categories of like how detailed this is. So this is the Genius Team Genius Zone Blueprint report for the Women Thriving Project team of myself and Jenny and Christina. So it starts with an overview of the soul of the team and actually acknowledges that this was not an accident. It was really designed, which it was, because I was working with all of this wisdom, even though I hadn't formalized it yet. It summarizes all of our individual blueprints, all of our types, all of our, all of the planets, the channels, like all of the stuff that shows up on an individual report. It has a whole section about our roles and natural divisions of genius for each of us. There's some little notes about, like critical design notes of, things for each of us to be watching out for, of, where things can go off. So they're describing me in this team as the wisdom holder, the IP originator, and the ecosystem architect. Jenny is the creative amplifier and product architect. Again, really specific descriptions here and critical design note for her. And Christina is the operational alchemist and client experience guardian. One of the things I mentioned, I bought somebody else's product. The client experience was so clunky and awful. It was like another thing of, like we will be doing that correctly. I think you all know client service is kind of important to me. Um, the team dynamics, the gifts, bridges, and friction points. It acknowledges our wealth dynamics triad, that we are a complete and ideal team of creator, supporter, accumulator, and that was deliberate. It has a whole thing about different dimensions that of three of us that complement and potentially could conflict to have as awarenesses of. Timing, our current, the Dasha is the term in Vedic astrology of the specific periods that we're in. So it's looking at the Dashas and strategic windows of the three of us together. And I remembered seeing it for yours, Jenny, it was saying like, trust the Dasha, because Jenny's in kind of like a purification period rather than a moving forward and saying, like, yeah, to trust the Dasha's request for inner work over outer performance over these next couple of months. So again, kind of valuable awareness. And it's showing us the most important launch window for us for this project is for August to October. So we know that. And then the rest of the year consolidation, and then what to look forward to next year, issues and navigational awareness. So they're making us aware of, some of the things that could trip us up as well, based on all of this. One of them being, again, Jenny and I having sacral authority, and Christina having emotional solar that takes, a little bit longer, and making sure that we build that awareness into the way we make decisions together. Monetization strategy is something I'm requesting in most of the reports because they're relevant for most people. That whole revenue architecture here that they're recommending based on what the things we're working with and what we bring. Strategic roadmap, non-negotiable principles for the team, and the collective genius zone as a summary. So that's an example of what the depth looks like for a team. And as many of you know, I'm a corporate refugee. I came from the business world. I was a vice president of a bank. I have an MBA. The prospect of bringing this to women in business, conscious women, it is just keeping me up at night in terms of exciting. It feels like, as Robin was saying, I think this is like bringing together everything I've ever been, and then taking it to another level. And I think that's what a lot of us are, starting to experience here as we're seeing this. Okay, so just wrapping up, I think we're getting toward the end. Just get back to this one. Oops. Okay, and just to highlight for this project with the teams, the Vedic astrology brings the focus about fulfilling on our purpose and honoring timing. Wealth dynamics really highlights everybody being in their natural roles and having all the roles filled. Human design has strategy and authority and profiles, and also the concept that some of us have what's called split definitions, that some of our hardwired gifts are not connected to each other. I'm someone who has a split definition, and Jenny completes my splits. And I have the experience of feeling more whole when I'm around people who complete my splits. I don't function that well on my own. I have a lot of gifts, but they're not all integrated. Jenny and I both complete Christina's splits. So that's something else that I'm looking at in terms of teams, especially with respect to founders, to make sure that if any of them have a split definition, that there are people on their team that complete those splits for them. Because otherwise, it's really a huge missing. And then the Hemadosha blueprint aspect of it, as I mentioned earlier, provides like physiology management, for optimal thriving, as well as nervous system regulation, which is again going to be very different for different people. So this is very complete. And, Robin mentioned the Enneagram. We can really include any other systems in this. I am focusing on the ones that I have a lot of experience with. But I'm really open, and as you all know, the generation of these reports is AI assisted. We can throw anything in there to refine this, more and more, and I'm sure over time we will. But these are the ones that I'm starting with, and it really is very complete. So I'm really open to and seeking support very specifically. So want to just like outline what that is. I'm really looking for client introductions and referrals. And as I'll be mentioning on the next slide, I'm offering wasn't sure what to call it, affiliate referral ambassador program. But I really do see this as a win-win of sharing a referral bonus for referrals because these are really valuable to me. And again, this isn't something that, at least initially, we're going to be marketing to the public. We're really wanting to be offering this through people who are really appreciating the value of it. So I haven't yet asked for any testimonials from any of you, but I will be. It's going to be really valuable. I'm looking for opportunities for podcast guesting for me to be a guest on other people's podcasts. I'm looking for speaking engagements, event, presentation opportunities, potential collaborations, definitely your feedback and ideas from any of this, any other opportunities. And as some of you know, I'm also in the process of doing a bridge funding project and raising some short-term funding to bring all of this together. And I have actually secured a third of the funds that I have been looking for. So I'm really excited about all of that. And I have a very detailed funding proposal. If anybody's interested in seeing that, I would be happy to share it with you. And this thing here is it's a little hard to read, but this is a copy of my one sheet that I can share with you. This is sort of a representation of who I am as a speaker and what I have to put out there. And again, I have hard copy of that and stuff that I can share digitally. But just to let you know that I am prepared for all of that stuff to get out there. And yes, as I was describing, this kind of sharing through my network is one of the key marketing strategies that is an expression of my design. And I'm offering 20% of the revenues of any initial introductions for any of the individual, family, or team clients that might come my way through any of you. So I'm asking, who that would benefit from this. I've already been receiving referrals and everybody's been ecstatic. I was just checking in with one of the ladies and she said things are really moving. So again, in terms of feedback, I'd love to know what, if anything, you would want to see from me to support that. Any other materials? We have some flyers that we've shared. I'm probably going to be creating a very abbreviated version of this presentation that, would be shareable. I'm really comfortable making videos. I'm happy doing, meetings. If anybody had a group to bring together, I'd be happy to do a customized thing. And Gurna, you had a question or a comment?
Yeah, is this doable strictly online or does it have a in-person component?
If people are in the area, I'm happy to meet with them in person. I had one of the clients, came here. It is nice to be with people in person.
But you could do the whole thing. If somebody's far away, you could still do it totally online.
Absolutely. And I record all of the sessions so people have, the whole wrap to review. So yes, definitely can be both. And that was kind of it. And this was sort of my wrap up when I've been experiencing and observing that when people discover their genius zones, alignment becomes kind of obvious. So that's what I wanted to share with everyone, and we made
Yeah,
it through. It wasn't too long. I'm gonna stop the share because there are some people that wanted the recording, and I don't want to make it too long. But